thank you for joining me. I'm going to read you a very fascinating interview with Bui Tin from the Wall Street Journal. Bui Tin was a North Vietnamese Army colonel serving on the People's Army of North Vietnam General Staff. He enlisted in the Vietnamese People's Army at age 18, took part in their August Revolution in 1945 against the French, and was wounded at Dien Bien Phu fighting the French. In 1975, he took the South Vietnamese surrender in Saigon. But soon after, Bui Tin grew disillusioned with what he said was communist corruption and the continuing isolation of the newly unified Vietnam. He decided to leave Vietnam and live in exile in Paris and became a vocal critic of the communist Vietnamese regime. He became a friend of the United States, testified before the U.S. Congress, appeared in at least one PBS documentary, and wrote books. On August 3, 1995, the Wall Street Journal interviewed him and published an article called How North Vietnam Won the War. I'm going to read that interview to you because I think it is extremely absorbing and insightful. I'm not suggesting we should accept all of his assessments. I'm simply providing you what he says, as he unquestionably has unique insights we can't find anywhere else. The problem with all North Vietnamese writings on the war, those that emanate from Vietnam, is that the writings are laced with propaganda. But Bui has no axe to grind or ideological screen to filter, in my opinion, so his accounts are closer to the truth. He did get caught up in the POW-MIA controversies in the 1990s, and after his testimony before the Senate Select Committee, he and former POW John McCain embraced, which produced a flurry of former enemies embrace headlines. Bui subsequently published two books called Following Ho Chi Minh, The Memoirs of a North Vietnamese Colonel, and From Enemy to Friend, A North Vietnamese Perspective on the War. He appeared in a PBS documentary. I'll play you some of that.
During the final months of 1963, Diem was shot and Kennedy was assassinated. So the situation in the South changed. Just at that time, President Ho Chi Minh called on all Vietnamese to double their efforts to help the people in the South. The resistance forces in the South were still very weak and badly equipped. In certain areas, they had trouble recruiting troops. Therefore, we decided that well-equipped and larger forces had to be sent to the South.
And now, the Wall Street Journal interview. Question from the Wall Street Journal. How did Hanoi intend to defeat the Americans? Bui Tin answer. By fighting a long war which would break their will to help South Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh said, quote, "We don't need to win military victories, we only need to hit them until they give up and get out," unquote. Question. Was the American anti-war movement important to Hanoi's victory? Answer. It was essential to our strategy. Support for the war from our rear was completely secure, while the American rear was vulnerable. Every day, our leadership would listen to world news over the radio at 9 a.m. to follow the growth of the American anti-war movement. Visits to Hanoi by people like Jane Fonda and former Attorney General Ramsey Clark and ministers gave us confidence that we should hold on in the face of battlefield reverses. We were elated when Jane Fonda, wearing a red Vietnamese dress, said at a press conference that she was ashamed of American actions in the war and that she would struggle along with us. Question. Did the Politburo pay attention to these visits? Answer. Keenly. Question. Why? Answer. Those people represented the conscience of America. The conscience of America was part of its war-making capability, and we were turning that power in our favor. America lost because of its democracy. Through dissent and protest, it lost the ability to mobilize a will to win. Question. How could the Americans have won the war? Answer. Cut the Ho Chi Minh Trail inside Laos. If Johnson had granted Westmoreland's request to enter Laos and block the Ho Chi Minh Trail, Hanoi could not have won the war. Question: anything else? Answer: train South Vietnam's generals. The junior South Vietnamese officers were good, competent, and courageous. Commanding general officers were inept. Question: did Hanoi expect that the National Liberation Front would win power in South Vietnam? No. General Giap believed that guerrilla warfare was important, but not sufficient for victory. Regular military divisions with artillery and armor would be needed. The Chinese believed in fighting only with guerrillas, but we had a different approach. The Chinese were reluctant to help us. Soviet aid made the war possible. Li Duan once told Mao Zedong that if you help us, we are sure to win. If you don't, we will still win, but we will have to sacrifice 1 or 2 million more soldiers to do the job. Question: was the National Liberation Front an independent political movement of South Vietnam? Answer: no. It was set up by our Communist Party to implement a decision of the Third Party Congress of September 1960. We always said there was only one party, only one army in the war to liberate the South and unify the nation. At all times, there was only one party commissar in command of the South. Question: why was the Ho Chi Minh Trail so important? Please indulge me for just a moment as I show you portions of the Ho Chi Minh Trail today, which I have traveled with Chris Corbett.
Yeah.
As you can see, we're walking along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. You can see the old rock embedded here. There are bomb craters. The bomb crater right here. They are all to our left and right. So I'm standing here just south of Mujia Pass from where I was before. And when I was standing on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, you can see right behind me where the trail goes through what was called the Bowl of Fire. There were so many B-52s and other aircraft dropping ordnance onto this terrain that it would just be literally fire everywhere. This is my new friend along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. My new friend along the trail. Sabai di? Oh, very nice. Jai di. Kap chai. Answer: it was the only way to bring sufficient military power to bear on the fighting in the South. Building and maintaining the trail was a huge effort, involving tens of thousands of soldiers, drivers, repair teams, medical stations, communication units. Question: what of America bombing of the Ho Chi Minh Trail? Answer: not very effective. Our operations were never compromised by attacks on the trail. At times, accurate B-52 strikes would cause real damage, but we put so much in at the top of the trail that enough men and weapons to prolong the war always came out the bombing. Bombing by smaller planes rarely hit significant targets. Question: what of American bombing of South Vietnam? Answer: if all the bombing had been concentrated at one time, it would have hurt our efforts. But the bombing was expanded in slow stages under Johnson, and it didn't worry us. We had plenty of time to prepare alternative routes and facilities. We always had stockpiles of rice, ready to feed the people for months if a harvest were damaged. The Soviets bought rice from Thailand for us. Question: what was the purpose of the 1968 Tet Offensive? Answer: to relieve the pressure General Westmoreland was putting on us in late 1966 and 1967, and to weaken American resolve during a presidential election year. Question: what about General Westmoreland's strategy and tactics caused you concern? Answer: our senior commander in the South, General Nguyen Chi Thanh, knew that we were losing base areas, control of the rural population, and that his main forces were being pushed out to the borders of South Vietnam. He also worried that Westmoreland might receive permission to enter Laos and cut the Ho Chi Minh Trail. In January 1967, after discussions with Ly Duan, General Tan proposed the Tet Offensive. Tan was the senior member of the Politburo in South Vietnam. He supervised the entire war effort. Tan's struggle philosophy was that, quote, America is wealthy but not resolute, unquote, and, quote, squeeze tight to the American chest and attack, unquote. He went on commercial flights with a false passport from Cambodia to Hong Kong and then to Hanoi. Only in July was his plan adopted by the leadership. Then Johnson had rejected Westmoreland's request for 200,000 more troops. We realized that America had made its maximum military commitment to the war. Vietnam was not sufficiently important for the United States to call up its reserves. We had stretched American power to a breaking point. When more frustration set in, all the Americans could do would be to withdraw. They had no more troops to send over. Tet was designed to influence American public opinion. We would attack poorly defended parts of South Vietnam cities during a holiday and a truce when few South Vietnamese troops would be on duty. Before the main attack, we would entice American units to advance close to the borders away from the cities. By attacking all South Vietnam's major cities, we would spread out our forces and neutralize the impact of American firepower. Attacking on a broad front, we would lose some battles but win others. We used local forces nearby each target to frustrate discovery of our plans. Small teams, like the one which attacked the U.S. Embassy in Saigon, would be sufficient. It was a guerrilla strategy of hit-and-run raids. Question: what about the results? Answer: our losses were staggering and a complete surprise. Giap later told me that Tet had been a military defeat, though we had gained the planned political advantages when Johnson agreed to negotiate and did not run for re-election. The second and third waves in May and September were, in retrospect, mistakes. Our forces in the South were nearly wiped out by all the fighting in 1968. It took us until 1971 to reestablish our presence, but we had to use North Vietnamese troops as local guerrillas. If the American forces had not begun to withdraw under Nixon in 1969, they could have punished us severely. We suffered badly in 1969 and 1970 as it was. Question: what of Nixon? Answer: well, when Nixon stepped down because of Watergate, we knew we would win. Van Vam Dong said of Gerald Ford, the new president, quote, he's the weakest president in U.S. history. The people didn't elect him. Even if you gave him candy, he doesn't dare to intervene in Vietnam again, unquote. We tested Ford's resolve by attacking Phu Long in January 1975. When Ford kept American B-52s in their hangars, our leadership decided on a big offensive against South Vietnam. Final question: what else? Answer: we had the impression that American commanders had their hands tied by political factors. Your generals could never deploy a maximum force for greatest military effect. Bui died, age 90, in France on 11 August 2018. As always, thank you for your support, thank you for watching, and please check out many of my other videos.